Travel back in time with a trip inside the Iowa's News Now vault.
These hundreds of people are objecting to the University of Iowa owning stocks in companies that do business in South Africa. On Monday, the Iowa Coalition Against Apartheid gave the administration 8 demands. However, members say the response of President James Friedman was not acceptable.
He made the disclaimer of stocks in these companies being to advance the educational purposes of the university, and as if that's some sort of disclaimer to any social responsibility the university has.
In the absence of Friedman, Dean Philip Jones today reiterated that the university remains responsible for the stocks given the university. At the same time, he says the school is doing its duty by providing a forum for free speech.
To the extent that the fasts or other demonstrations are demonstrations of their commitment to their ideals, I respect them. But as I said earlier, the extent to which the institution must be open to do what it is supposed to do would be the extent to which we would be able to accommodate demonstrations.
But while the demonstration on the Pinacrest continued, some protesters occupied the president's office in Jessup Hall. Onlooker Shimmer Chinondaya grew up in South Africa. He said he was at the rally to support the relatives he left behind.
I'm all for action in South Africa. I feel something just has to happen.
The protesters say they want the university to sell the stock, since much of the income from it goes to student financial aid. The protesters say they want action now, not in the future, and they say they have enough people supporting their cause to get what they want. But as of today, this show of solidarity is not enough to change the university's position on divestment. Nonetheless, the protesters say they will march on to victory. Lynn Blades, 2 Action News, Iowa City. At noon today, the apartheid protesters thought their day-long occupation of President James Friedman's office at the University of Iowa was coming to an end. But at noon, the tide changed.
No business in South Africa.
Supporters from the university and the community alike showed up by the hundreds to join the protest.
I think it's great. I think that it shows that the students are not apathetic. It shows they care. And most of all, it shows that this cause is something a little bit more than, worrying about getting into classes and worrying about how they're going to eat dinner and things like that. I mean, this is important.
The administration, however, does not share the same sentiment. Vice President of Finance, Dorsey Ellis Jr., says they've done everything to try to accommodate the protesters, but they've reached their limit.
We've sought to find other ways to allow them to express their dissatisfaction with university policy in ways that do not disrupt the functioning of the university. But none of those approaches have been satisfactory to them. They've not been willing to accept any of them. And at some point, we will simply have to ask them to leave.
Approximately 2 hours after Ellis issued that statement, the campus police were joined by the Iowa City Police. Together, they proceeded to arrest over 100 protesters in and outside of Jessup Hall. An official statement from the university did not come until after 4:30, when the president's office had been cleared.
I continue to respect the deeply held convictions of the students and others who were involved. Because their conduct was not threatening to person or property, no university charges will be filed for any actions to date.
Tonight's rally was the calm after the storm in Jessup Hall today. After being arrested and released this afternoon, protesters returned to the outside of Jessup Hall to plan future activities. Although the spirit is still high, some of the activists need a breather before the next move.
One thing, too, I think is important. I've already been arrested once, and that means the penalties for any other arrests are much more serious. So I'm thinking twice about what my plan of action will be.
Earlier, the atmosphere inside the president's office was much more intense. Between the hours of 7 o'clock this morning and 3 o'clock this afternoon, neither the apartheid protesters or the university administration could reach an agreement to meet, let alone discussing the possibility of the university divesting its South African stock holdings.
The noise, the congestion, and the occupancy of needed space did become disruptive. Thus, it became necessary to authorize the removal of all demonstrators who refused to leave the building as requested.
Once both sides realized they were at an impasse, negotiations for terms of arrest began. It was then that the air seemed to clear, and both sides knew exactly where they stood. The protesters in this room have proven that they're committed to their cause. They say that being arrested is just one sacrifice for that commitment. The arrests took about 3 hours and were for the most part orderly. Some of the protesters in the president's office reviewed arrest techniques they had used before. But after all was said and done, one of the last students removed from Friedman's office said, quote, "This is just the cartoon before the movie." Lynn Blades for Iowa Tonight.